one of the key things is for whether they're new or sort of current clients that are thinking about, perhaps starting a new business or that getting into a contract with a new kind of commercial party, always involving us or, a lawyer kind of early, even if it's just about, jumping on a call, having like a 30-minute chat, an hour chat about what they're thinking about, where things are up to early, I think that's the biggest thing that we find adds value and helps a client to build that relationship. So we're here, like when they need us.
Welcome to On Record PR. I'm the executive producer and guest host, Jennifer Simpson Carr. Today, I'm going on record with Meghan Warren, director and principal lawyer at Burke Lawyers. She is a commercial and business lawyer in transactions and disputes with more than 16 years of experience and rare industry capabilities. Meghan is joining us today from her home base in Melbourne, Australia. Meghan, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Jennifer. Thanks.
It's so great to see you. I had the pleasure of not only meeting you, but getting the chance to spend some really quality time with you at the 2023 Whipple Conference last year in New Orleans.
We did. That was such a great conference, such a great opportunity to connect with, like-minded women in the industry, and highly valuable. Would highly recommend that conference. Yeah,
absolutely. And I know that we have both agreed that we still keep in touch with many amazing women that we've met. Yeah. So that's been fantastic.
So good. Yeah, hoping to make it this year. If not again this year, then definitely next year. It's going to be on my agenda moving forward for sure.
So one of the things I was really fascinated to learn about you're one of the few lawyers in Australia with a New York State Bar attorney license, which allows you to continue your practice in the U.S. in addition to the great work that you do as an Australian legal practitioner. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about Burke Lawyers, and also what was the driving force for the dual admission in Australia and New York?
Yeah, so Burke Lawyers, the firm, we're based about 10 minutes outside of sort of central Melbourne. We are predominantly, our practice areas are in commercial and business, and disputes, advice, transactions, property, and wills and estates. They're kind of our core areas. We're size, we're about 20. We're small in the scheme of US law firms, which are, huge. But I guess from an Australian perspective, we're kind of a large, small firm, if you like. So that's, I guess, a real snapshot of the firm. Though we're kind of based in Melbourne, our clients are really all over Australia, and then given my US qualification, there's a number of clients we have that are, based globally. So, they might be Australians who have moved overseas to, say, Paris, US, and they have Australian ties still, but also international ties too. Or they might be clients who are more internationally based, who are looking to come to Australia and, say, set up a business or expand their business into Australia, or potentially they've entered in, there's a dispute that's occurring that's got an Australian tie to it as well. So that's kind of, snapshot of the firm. In terms of what drove me to the dual admission, to kind of be qualified in 2 jurisdictions. So I'm told it's something that I always said I wanted to do. Like at my admission in Australia many years ago, my best friend said to me, "Oh, you said on that day that you wanted to sit the New York bar exam because it's, I'd heard it was the hardest exam in the English language." So I thought, that would be a good challenge. But no, so around 4 years ago now, I had a client based here in Australia who ended up in a dispute with a party in the US, over a contract essentially. So it was really a breach of contract type claim. And he found himself kind of in hot water, came to see me, and we needed to then sort of find a way to find him representation over in the US to defend this litigation that he was a party to. So that had we engaged counsel, on the ground there in the US. I wasn't qualified at this point to practice, but it kind of had me flying over there a bit for things like the mediation and the interim stages of the litigation. And the client had often sort of said to me, oh, why can't you get up and, advocate for me, in the court when we're over there, like, this case kind of better than anyone. And I said, oh, I'm not allowed, like I'm not licensed. That's why we've got to have, counsel engaged here as well. But I started to think, if this goes on to trial, I could be, one of the counsel that's able to make submissions and legal argument and things in the court in the States as well. So that kind of was the trigger for me to start studying for the bar exam in New York. So I did sort of 6 months of study, in my spare time after work. And then sat the exam, over there. So that was, in the meantime, the litigation resolved, and, it wasn't a situation where I ultimately ended up going and putting any positions in court over there in relation to that case. But, I did get my qualification out of it, thankfully passing on the first go, which I've heard is, which I've heard is hard, for a foreign lawyer. So, so that's that was the impetus for it all. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And what a great story that you mentioned it so long ago in your career.
Yeah.
And I know.
I know. Like I didn't remember that. But then when I was studying, and my best friend had said, you said this, like on your day of admission, you said you wanted to do this. And I was like, oh, okay. So I think with the New York bar particularly, it's got more of international recognition, I guess. So I thought, that's probably the one that I would do, even though it's hard. But I think all of the bar, any kind of bar exam you're sitting these days is, they're testing you to the max, I think. So
yes, I think that's true. So given, the differences in the Australian legal market and the US, legal landscape, how do you stay abreast of the developments and changes, and how are you continuously learning so that you can advise your clients on these different landscapes?
So lots of work, I guess, in a nutshell. But I mean, it's really about knowing, the spaces that you can work within and not, I guess. Like, I think that's the real key. Is I certainly don't profess to know everything about Australian law or US law. Like, I have my areas that I'm confident in and that I feel that I can really add value for the client and advise them. But if I feel that there are areas that are, issues, I guess, issue spotting early, to go, look, okay, you really need some expert tax advice, particularly on how the US and Australian jurisdictions kind of work together on tax to make a decision about how to proceed. Then I'll connect in with appropriate tax advisors, whether it's on the US side or Australian side or both, to kind of fill those gaps. So that's why it's so important for me to make those trips, to the States, ideally a couple of times a year, and connect in with other advisors in different areas so that I've got like a good network of people that I trust that I can quickly go to in terms of advice for clients where they might need that. Like, I'm certainly not a one-stop shop, I guess, for all their needs in that sense. And I mean, that's really helpful for me in terms of sort of continuous learning for me as well, and making sure that, I'm building that network and then always staying in touch. So even this morning, like, I had, a memo from a colleague in New York who's always writing these, memos about, recent cases and kind of, forum selection and merger clauses and kind of the New York position at the moment based on some case law that's been coming out. So that knowledge sharing with colleagues is super important as well. And I think I think it was about like last year or the year before, I did a presentation for the American Bar Association with a couple of colleagues, and now I'm looking to write an article with one of them too about the differences in the US and Australian jurisdiction. So it's on me. It's really on me to be proactive and make sure that I keep on top of kind of the knowledge across the jurisdictions in my areas. So there's kind of no easy way to do that other than just working, reading a lot, making sure I stay connected. Yeah.
And those network connections are so important, as you said, because we are all in different spaces throughout the day with different areas of expertise and conversations that we're having. And so when you have that really solid, trusted network, I can imagine that it's more easy for you to keep up to date because you're knowledge sharing so consistently.
Totally. I think, one of the benefits with what I do is kind of that initial triage with the client of going, okay, this is the problem or this is the advice they're looking for, and unpacking the different parts of it, unpacking where we can assist or where we might need to connect in with a tax specialist or, say health regulation specialist in Chicago or whatever it might be. So that's that piece, I guess that plan at the start is super important to make sure the client knows where they're heading, who the different types of advisors that they might need to be involved, and that kind of helps to set the plan moving forward.
So Meghan, we're going to pause here for just a moment to hear a message from our sponsor. And when we come back, we'll take a forward-looking view at what your clients are looking ahead to for 2024 and what you're preparing for as their counsel.
This episode is sponsored by Furia Ruble Communications. In the ever-changing business ecosystem, it's crucial for law firms and businesses to maintain a focus on innovation, differentiation, and efficiency to sustain their relevance and competitive edge. Furia Ruble's Stride services equips domestic and international law firms and businesses to pinpoint obstacles and inefficiencies, distinguish true unique selling propositions, optimize processes, and adjust to shifting client requirements. To learn more about Furia Ruble's Stride services, visit furiaruble.com/stride.
So Meghan, we're back from our sponsor message, and I'm curious, in your current role, you have a focus on assisting professionals and businesses in medical, health, and in the science industries. Can you elaborate on the unique challenges that your clients may face this year in this area and how they're preparing?
Yeah. So I think this is a really interesting one, and we've seen it kind of growing from COVID, I think, but I think even more in 2024, the kind of expanding digitization and outsourcing of sort of healthcare delivery is definitely something that we see a lot with clients, whether it's current clients or new clients coming to us. So, and that's, whether it's just within Australia, but also, internationally. So kind of businesses that are, particularly professionals that might be medical or health qualified that are looking to, they're providing services, say, within Australia, but then they're looking to provide services also to, say, US consumers or, UK consumers, and kind of how do they do that? How do they safely do that? Can it be done safely? What are the different kind of regulations that apply, which can be an, absolute minefield, but it's kind of trying to get the law to catch up and, different jurisdictions' law to catch up with that digitization, I guess, of service delivery. And particularly in health, that's, it's fraught with a lot of, potential issues because it's so highly regulated. And I think coming out of that too, increased kind of competition. So we've had clients come to us who are not necessarily medical or health qualified, but they're entrepreneurs and they're wanting to enter the healthcare space in terms of digital delivery of services. So there's kind of that increased competition, not just from other medically qualified people or healthcare qualified people, but others as well, just entrepreneurs who are kind of in tech and wanting to, platform on that. So I think that's, in terms of, I guess, the market for those clients, that's another increasing space that we're seeing. But also, I think there's definitely an increase in as there always seems to be an increase in regulation and kind of compliance and law generally, that it's, I guess that's something that clients always need. It's kind of like not stagnant advice. Like there's always new development or, new recommendation around healthcare and how it's delivered, whether it's a code or a guideline that then the client needs assistance with as well. So I think that's definitely something that's not new in 2024 necessarily, but it's a constant.
And it sounds like you alluded to this earlier as we were chatting, but something that it sounds like you're constantly doing is looking around the corner for clients or looking at the horizon at what might be coming up next that they should be thinking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so those are definitely things that I think a lot of clients are not necessarily having to deal with in terms of, say, a problem that might be right in front of them, but it's something that they need to be aware of kind of working in the industry. Yeah.
And so, Meghan, in your practice, what are you preparing for in 2024 that you think will have the greatest impact on your legal practice?
Yeah, so I think in 2024, I mean, personally, I'm having a baby this year. So I guess like on a personal note, that's something that I'm that's right in front of me now and that I'm preparing for my second bub. So I guess for me, it's been the last couple of months have been about, making sure that the firm is kind of set up and geared to kind of carry on seamlessly without me, which I think we are. So that's, excellent. I guess, one thing that, personally is a bit of an achievement the last couple of months anyway, making sure that we've got like a good team, here around us, which is I feel really confident about, which is great. I think in terms of 2024 for clients, I mean, it's really, and what we can do to kind of is really on the back of those other issues that I talked about. So, I think one of the key things is for whether they're new or sort of current clients that are thinking about, perhaps starting a new business or that getting into a contract with a new kind of commercial party, always involving us or, a lawyer kind of early, even if it's just about, jumping on a call, having like a 30-minute chat, an hour chat about what they're thinking about, where things are up to early, I think that's the biggest thing that we find adds value and helps a client to build that relationship. So we're here like when they need us. So it's something that I guess I see clients kind of not involve us as early as they should, I guess. It's kind of that sort of hesitancy to involve a lawyer until they really need to. But I think one of the key things that we really like to add is, building that relationship and even just giving initial advice early. It can help point them in the right direction. I find that helps make our job heaps easier, but also it just adds so much value for them. So so that's, I guess, something I would recommend, I guess.
Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. And I know the goodwill and the trust that builds with your clients is you're demonstrating that you're constantly thinking about what might be coming up from them next. And certainly we are sending all of our congratulations and well wishes to you.
Oh, thank you.
As your family grows in the very near future. And Meghan, thank you so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed connecting with you through the Whipple conference and chatting with you today. I also want to thank our listeners for tuning in and encourage you to visit our website onrecordpr.com where you can find all the information you need about the show. And we'll see you all next time. Thank you again, Meghan.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks so much.
On Record PR is produced by Jennifer Simpson Carr and Matt Henderson, with support from the team at Furia Rubel Communications. This episode is edited by Željko Tomic of Compost Media Flow.